Welcome to Boris FX Live. Sponsored by Dell Precision Workstations. Create without limits. And by NVIDIA. And Intel.
Hello and welcome to Boris FX Live. My name is Ben Brownlee for Boris FX, and thank you everyone for joining us for Boris FX Live number 10, where we're going to be taking a look at Particle Illusion 2021 Standalone and having a look at some of the new features that we have available to us. It's a very, very exciting stream for us. We've got some great people on. I can also see that we have a very wide and varied audience from around the world. I am streaming in live from Denmark. We have people coming in from all across Europe, South America, North America, and if I haven't named your continent yet, then feel free to put it in the chat. And where is the chat, you might ask? Well, yes, the chat is not here. We are absolutely live, and we usually have a nice big friendly chat window up on borisfxlive.com. That is not there today because of technical issues. So if you want to ask your questions live, then head on over to YouTube and take a look at the stream there. Just go to the Boris FX channel and you will easily find it. But keep your questions coming. We are live. We will answer them as much as we can. And if you do want to go to Boris FX Live, there is one very, very good reason for doing so. And that is to enter our competition. So today you can win a lot of very cool prizes. Not only do we have a prize from our friends at Action VFX, a $200 online gift certificate. So thank you very much, Action VFX, for that. If you haven't seen Action VFX, they do a ton of really specialized stock footage that has lots of things blowing up and fire, smoke, all that sort of explosions. It's really, really great stuff. Blood splatters, if you like a bit of blood and you want them a bit more safely than doing it yourself, Action VFX. But not only do you get a chance of winning the $200 online gift card, I just saw that transition.
What are you laughing at? What are you laughing at?
Nothing at all. You stay quiet, disembodied voice, until I get to you.
Okay.
We also have 12 months of the Boris FX Suite. So this is everything that we make. No, go back the other way. There we go. So this is Sapphire, Continuum, Mocha Pro, Silhouette, and Optics. And that's almost $1,300 value. So that's great. But head on over to borisfxlive.com, enter the competition. Full terms and conditions are right there on the webpage. But as you could tell, I also want to thank our sponsors, our friends at NVIDIA, Dell, and Intel for helping us make these live streams happen. The Dell workstations, the Dell Precision Workstations, are the #1 workstation brand in the world. We use Dells extensively here at Boris FX and are very, very happy when we do. So thank you very much for that. And thank you very much for everyone who helps make Boris FX Live happen. Because, of course, I can't do it by myself. Yes, visit the stuff. I don't want to get to this. We do all the social things. Come on. I want to get to the good stuff. Come on, Brian.
There we go.
Got to do the reveal. Here we go. Here we go.
There we go.
In Mission Control in Boston, we have Mr. Brian Fox, who was meant to go to
There's nothing but trouble.
Listen, there. You will do what I tell you to do. Okay? All right?
You might be my director, but I will break out. So we have Mr. Brian Fox. Hello, Brian.
Hey, Ben. Good to see you.
Yes, it is.
Good to see everyone. Good to see everyone in the chat.
I need to zoom my camera in a bit because Brian's just like,
It's just like his one big head, right?
Such a big personality just fills the frame.
Listen. If you guys could see the room.
We also have, hang on, I'm focusing.
Yeah, go.
I'm focusing everyone. No, stop, Brian. No. We also have Mr. Alan Lawrence. Hello.
Hello, Ben and everybody.
Hello. Hello. Alan is, of course, not only the product manager behind Particle Illusion, he is the brain behind Particle Illusion. Well, you know, he's a brain, at least a brain behind Particle Illusion.
A brain, yes. It's a team now.
Yes. This is the nice thing about having a team of brains, and of course we have our number 4 brain, not in terms of placement, but just in terms of quantity. It's Mr. John Dickinson. Hello, John.
Hello, everyone. Welcome again. Good to see you all virtually.
John joining us, of course, from Australia. On the other side of what I like to call the globe. So
that's correct.
Without any further ado, I'm actually going to just pass over to John. We're all going to be here still behind the scenes, so keep your chat questions coming on the YouTube channel, and we will be back very shortly. So, John, over to you. Talk to us about Particle Illusion.
Take it away. All right, so I'm going to just share my screen in a moment, but Particle Illusion 2021 was released late last year, and it's been in continuum for a while. It's got some fabulous new features, and Standalone was just released last week, so they are the same features, but I'm going to show you how they work in Standalone. So that's enough of me. Let me just share my screen. Okay, so I've already launched Particle Illusion here on my Windows workstation. And I just want to quickly give you an overview, just in case you're new to Particle Illusion, about the actual interface. So it's a standalone app, and when you launch it, over here on the left, you'll see the preview panel, and here you can choose from a variety of presets. There's different categories, thousands of presets, and when you choose a preset, if you click up here in the preview, you'll see an instant preview, a real-time preview. If I double-click, that will add that to the stage. You can see there's a little emitter point here on the stage, a center point. And if I click play, you can see I get a nice fast playback. And over here are my controls, and down here is my timeline. So it's a pretty simple interface. You can come up to the view menu and you can load different layouts. For example, if you wanted to more clearly browse presets, you can choose the browse layout. And this gives you nice big thumbnails and makes it really easy to just click and get a preview up here in the preview window. So presets are a pretty good way to start. Obviously, you could start from scratch, and I'm going to be doing that in a moment. But this is a really good view to be able to browse the presets. I'm going to come back to the edit view. Actually, no, I won't. I'll go to the default. There we go. And what I'll do is I want to walk through the 2021 new features. So I thought, I mean, you can start with the preset. Often that's the best way to go. Just add a preset and then, you know, make some adjustments. I personally feel that when I want to build something really customized, it's actually quite good to start with something really basic. That way you know that the settings are pretty much at their default settings, and it's a nice way to start. So I'm going to come up to this search emitters dialog here. Just click, and I'm going to type in basic. And I'm looking for, let's see, got to make sure I click on custom. And here you can see there's basic emitters in here. These are just starting points. So I'm going to just literally double click this one here, basic emitter. But first of all, I'm just going to delete this firework one, just by selecting and press delete. Now, I was having a few issues when I was working yesterday in this new version on my system. I think I've got some OpenGL issues with my NVIDIA card. So I may get a bit of a slowdown and have to restart, but let's see how that goes. Okay, so here's my basic emitter. I'm going to double click. and that adds that into the stage, and we're not going to see very much. I'm just going to use my mouse wheel. You can see I'm at 47%. I could change my scale here, but if I use my mouse wheel, I can, oops, I just clicked and I added another one. It's okay, I'm just going to roll in and just click play, and there's the world's most simple particle simulation. So that's a really good place to start. It's super, super basic. So let's make some adjustments. And that way you can see some of the sort of basic settings that you can change over here in the controls. So in the control panel, we have the emitter. Well, we have the layer. The very top level is the layer. And the layer, you can adjust the position and the angle, overall position and angle of all of the emitters inside the layer. And this is the emitter. And inside the emitter is the particle, just like that. So they're all nested. And you can see emitters have their own properties and particles have their own properties and parameters. So let's have a look at the basic emitter parameters first, or properties first. I'm just going to twirl that open. My shape is currently a point. I'm going to change that to an area because I want to fill this area with particles. And it's a very, very tiny area at the moment. I can click and drag out like that. And you can see it starts filling that with particles. But I'm going to come down to my width and height and just type in a value. So 1920 by 1080. Just like that. And that's going to fill that viewable area, or that rendering area. You can see there's actually a grey box that sits around that area. So I've got to fill that area up. I'm going to click play. And it still looks completely, really, really basic. So let's just make a couple more adjustments. Now, what I want to do is, let's see, let's take a look at the color. I'm going to twirl up the properties for the emitter and come down to the particle and twirl open properties for the particle and twirl open colors. So at the moment, you can see it's just a plain white. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to click just to add a new step or a new stop to my gradient. And I'm going to add one in the middle as well. Double click the first one. Add a red, let's see, a red here. Just freestyling this a little bit. Add an orange. This is the great thing about particle illusion is it's really responsive and you can really experiment and play around until you get something that you like. So I'm going to click apply now. And you can see on the color type, that's using the full gradient. I do have other options for the ways to apply those different colors. So there we go. Now they are being born and dying fairly quickly, so I probably want to adjust the life. Let's see. Now, one just very quick basics in particle illusion. The emitter has these parameters here, and these are sort of like global scaling parameters for whatever parameters you have with the same name in the particle. So for example, I have size here in particle, and I have size here in emitter. So whatever value I have set under the emitter, the particle, this emitter one will scale that. So I could change it here or here, but just remember that if anything's set to 0 under your particle, changing anything in the emitter won't do anything. Changing that value won't do anything. So I'm going to just change the, let's see, the life to, I don't know, 50. That's going to give me a lot of particles. So I want to change the number, bring that right down. Because obviously they're all living a lot longer now. So bring that down to 5. It's probably a bit too many. 3. And these global values are really good when you have multiple particles in here. So all of the particles could have various numbers, various life, but then you could globally scale those using these emitter values. Okay, only other thing I want to do just for now is notice how when I'm playing this, they're kind of popping on and popping off. I just want to sort of soften that a little bit under the properties for the particle by choosing alpha. And you can see currently my alpha is set to white. So alpha is basically the opacity of the particle over the life. So I want to have it actually fade in and fade out. So fade in when it's born and fade out when it dies. So I'm going to start at black bring that down to black, and apply, and finish on black. So now it's going to fade in, and it's going to fade out at the end. I just like that. I don't like that sort of popping look. That should make it a little softer. You can see that. So we're now not getting that popping effect anymore. One other thing I will do is under, let's see, under, where is it? Under properties here, intense. I want to make my colors intense. So when particles cross in front of one another, we get that mix and we get that brighter effect. I turn that on and off, just like that. That's really nice for particles. Let's take a quick drink. Okay, so I think that's good for the basics. So what I want to do now is start exploring these 2021 features. So we'll go through them one by one, and let's modify this using those features to come up with a kind of a nice graphical look. One thing just to keep in mind, when I'm actually playing these back, under my settings, let's see, under my preferences, I actually have use high quality playback turned off. And that's just going to make them drop quality slightly when it's playing back, and it just makes them a little faster. So if you are finding that your simulations are a little slow, one thing to do is drop the quality playback back, or just uncheck this. You can also drop the particle count, specifically up here under the emitter. Just drop that particle number, just drop it back for a while, and that'll speed things up. And then you can bring that back up again afterwards. Okay, so let's take a look at the first great new feature in 2021, which is turbulence. And we'll start at the top under the emitter. So if I tool open properties, you can see under properties we have this turbulence field option. And this is basically a fractal field which you can use to manipulate the position of the particles. So you can see frequency is set to 10 and octaves is to 2. So there is actually a value in here, but we don't see anything in here. If I look a little further down, you can see position turbulence and size turbulence. Remember, this is the emitter parameters, and they're set to 0. So let's start with position turbulence first. Let me just drag that value, and you can see it starts to change the position of the particles. They're slowly changing. Now I've got to come up here and change my frequency, because my frequency is fairly low. I need to increase my frequency. See, now you can start to see that sort of fractal control that it's having over that area emitter. Now, I want to bring my particle count down because it is a little slow. So I'm going to bring that down to 50. And I'm going to bring my position turbulence down to 100. And just bring that frequency up. Just like that. So if I click play now, it's basically playing back the same as before, but we have the particles kind of in clumps. So we've run it through that fractal field, and it's giving us that kind of organic positioning, but it's not moving in an organic way. So what I can do now is come down to auto evolve speed. You can see that's set to 0. I'm going to actually bring that up. And when I play that back now, you can see now the fractal field is moving through that area. And we're getting a really nice organic movement to those particles. And I think this kind of option in a particle generator is vital. You have to have something like turbulence to make those particles move in a more natural, organic way. Otherwise, they just look totally computer generated. And if you're doing things like water and or organic elemental effects, you must have this kind of option. I'm just going to bring up my particle count again. Let's bring up the number. And I'm actually going to just drop the life down a bit because I think they're living a little too long. And bring that down to 10. And bring the number back up.
Can you talk a little bit more about that, John? Why would you want to bring the life of a particle down as you bring the number up?
Because it's slowing the system down, Ben. It's if the particle's living too long, then new particles are being born, and you've got more and more particles. And you can see the particle count up here on the top right. So obviously, the more particles you have, the more it's going to tax your system. So it's just, I think it's like putting your foot on the brake and accelerator, and you just got to get it, get it dialed in just right, and that will
Cool.
give you. See, I'm getting a little bit better movement there now. It's playing back a bit better now. I can bring up the number, and that's about 6,000 particles now. Okay, so just dialing in this just to get it a little more how I want it. Now, the other option underneath position turbulence is size turbulence. So you can change the size of the particles based on this same turbulent field, this same fractal field. So let's bring up the size turbulence. It's going to drag that up. I've got no specific values in mind here. But notice as I do that, we start to get this clumping of larger particles and smaller particles. I'm going to keep bringing that up. That's really nice because it adds variation, but it also gives it a little more depth as well. So we've got position and size turbulence being controlled by this turbulent field. It's going to keep tweaking this to see. You can see I can drag that and it's actually quite responsive. I could even continue it playing back as I'm changing this value, and I can just dial in the style that I want. Now, it is actually disappearing at the beginning. That's fair enough because no particles have been born. I could just increase the frames to preload, maybe just a little bit, maybe just 5 or 10, like that. And that way I do have something on the screen at the start, probably maybe 20. Let's try that. Now I should be able to, yeah, that way I've got particles from the beginning. So that's a kind of an important thing to be able to do. Okay, so let's just twirl that up. So we've seen the emitter turbulence. Now, particles have their own turbulent values, own turbulent parameters. So you can see down here, position turbulence and size turbulence, and they're set to 100 by default. And like I mentioned, if I made those 0, then the fact that we've got values anything above 0 for the emitter makes no difference because remember, these are scaling values for these values down here. So if you ever get caught when you're using particle illusion, specifically with something like bounce, which for some particles may be set to 0, when you start playing with bounce up here and nothing happens, make sure that the particle actually isn't on 0. Just a little tip there. It's going to undo that. So I'll just undo that again. So we'll leave those on 100. But particles under their properties also have, actually before I, just one thing I want to mention, I'm just getting ahead of myself. One of the good things about particles having their own position and size turbulence is that obviously you can have multiple particles. So you could have duplicates of this or all different kinds of different particles, and they could all have their own position and their own size turbulence independently. Under properties, let's just twirl up colors and alpha because we finished with those. Look, notice that particles also has a turbulence field. So we have the turbulence field for the emitter and the turbulence field for the particles. So you can use these. I don't use these a lot, but you can use them just to fine-tune the look of the turbulence field. So obviously I can increase the frequency down here on at the particle level. And this one here, offset's really good. If you're doing variations on a look, then offset can be great. Just to see, I can sort of offset that in time. So I can create, think of it kind of like random seed. There is a random offset value as well. That just randomizes a bit. But this offset's great for creating just slightly different variations of the same look. So offset, very useful. Ben reminded me about that recently. I was trying to do something by changing a lot of different parameters. And Ben goes, "Oh, there's the offset." I go, "Oh, yeah, that's right." So I never forgot that, Ben. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. I love that. I use that quite a lot because I like to cheat and sort of set up one master like particle and then duplicate that a ton and just do minor tweaks to it, and it starts to build up a bit of depth. Yeah,
definitely. But imagine if you're doing something like moving dust, everyone, just some drifting dust, and you wanted to have some foreground dust that was kind of out of focus, and so you could set that up and drifting in a certain way, and then you could duplicate that particle and then set some background dust and just slightly offset it. So you've got everything's moving the same general way because it's being affected by the same wind or whatever, but it's just in a slightly different position. So offset's really valuable for that. So that's turbulence field. Now, there are other options under the particle for adjusting turbulence. So we've seen position and size, but there's also these variation options. So we have position turbulence variation and size turbulence variation. So I can just drag those. And variation is literally just that. It's for adding slight variation to your simulations. So these are the kind of things that you dial in when you've got everything sort of set up the way you want with your general position and size turbulence. Then you'll just dial in. And it's the same for all of these parameters. Size, velocity, weight, all of these allow you to fine-tune and customize the look of your simulation. So it's great to have those for turbulence as well. And last but not least are the over-life parameters. So these are parameters that you can animate over the life of the particle. It's not over the length of the simulation or over the length of the sequence. You see, this is 300 frames. It's the length of the actual, the life of the actual particle. So these will work based on how long the life of the particle is. So we've got a couple down here for position and size turbulence. I'm going to click on that. And you can see it has a dotted line. The ones that have a red box actually already have keyframes. So the red box is an indication that something has live keyframes. But down here, these ones don't. They've got a dotted line. I like to quickly just hold the control key down and just click. Just click on that. So I have to actually, first of all, just turn on keyframing. Hold the control key down and just click, and that adds a keyframe. So now I can just drag the first keyframe down to 0, and that means that I'm not going to have any turbulence at the beginning of the particle's life. And I'm going to drag the second one, and I'm going to actually bring it up. And you can see how the particles are changing on the stage. I'm going to bring it up and bring it all the way to the end. So now what's going to happen, you can see from the graph, is that the turbulence will be 0 at the start, but then will start to increase over the life of the particle. So if we come back home, and also we want to do size turbulence. So we'll go linear. Just make sure I can see what I'm doing here. Size turbulence, once again, I'm just going to quickly hit Control, drag that down, 0, and bring that up. And let's see. So we've got 0 position turbulence, 0 size turbulence. Now I think I'm just checking here is what I saw when I was practicing this yesterday was that I had 0 turbulence in my stage. So I'm just trying to work out why I still can see turbulence here.
And you used this technique in one of your other tutorials, didn't you, John? I think one of the longer tutorial series.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, this is really good because obviously you don't want necessarily turbulence at the very beginning, but you want to introduce turbulence. Maybe you've got some smoke that's rising that you want to sort of rise in a straight line and then slowly become turbulent. That's the way to do it. Now, you might want to chime in here, Alan. You might be noticing why I should be seeing no turbulence at all at the very beginning. Because I had turbulent overlife and size.
Yeah, I think it's because it's creating particles all along. So it's the particles that were created, in the first frame have no turbulence to start with, but then they're all mixed together. Probably would be this would be a great example, of a trail emitter, because then you can see clearly as the emitter moves, you can see it happening. But the problem is all the particles here are overlapping, and so you can't really tell which ones don't have turbulence and which ones do.
Well, yeah, definitely. You can see now. I've actually just modified that while you were talking, Alan. That's great because I used you as filler, so I could work out what it was doing. Frames to preload was set to 20. Watch what happens when I press play. See how there's no turbulence at the start now, everyone? It's actually not turbulent, but it starts to become turbulent. So we actually don't have any turbulence at the very beginning, but it's actually starting to be introduced. See that? So it is actually working. I just had that frames to preload set up too high, and it was already turbulent by the time. So the particles that were on the frame had already were already turbulent by the time. I'm getting confused here. Yeah, you understand what I mean?
I think if you'd have had a sharper curve as well, that would have helped out and shown that a bit clearer.
Definitely. But the point is that
you can see it. You can definitely see it now.
You can definitely see it. Yeah, it definitely works. And the point is that it's a really great way to introduce turbulence without having it from the very beginning. And obviously, I could keyframe that. Does it come down to? This is why it's great to have a brains trust on here as well. I could keyframe that so that I had lots of turbulence at the beginning, then I had none, and then I had more. So I can obviously come and I can control click, and I can play around with that as well. So that's great. So these over-life properties are really great for animating your particles.
And John, if I could jump in, there's a couple of great emitters in the Emitters 2021 library that show that really well.
Which ones are those, Alan? We've got the Emitter 2021 library just here, actually.
There's the it's a triple something. The triple emitter, the happy trio up toward the top there. Yeah,
right. That's right. Yeah, I saw that.
That's a great one.
So
the happy
it's fun
trio
naming
trail.
Particles.
Yeah,
it's fun naming particles, isn't it? After a while.
Well, you
start out with great intentions. You start out with great intentions. Yeah, I can call this, and I can call this, that. But after 500, you go, whatever. You call it to your kids. Hey, kids, what should I call this?
The happy manatee.
So there you go. Yes.
Yeah.
There's that one there.
Yeah, zoom out a click, and you can see that the particles are Yeah,
they start without any turbulence, and then they become turbulent as they continue their life after. That's really good. Yeah, very nice.
That's also a nice example of I would say that's a good example of three particles that have different turbulence settings as well.
Fantastic. So everyone, that's a good one to explore those options. Okay, let's move on. I think that's a pretty good overview of turbulence. So let's take a look at what else we have.
I was going to say, before you do anything else, can I just jump in just to remind people to keep asking your questions in the YouTube chat, and you've still got time as well to join us at borisfxlive.com and enter the competition. We've got the Boris FX Suite, which is everything that we make, so including Continuum, which Particle Illusion plugin is a part of, Sapphire, Mocha Pro, Silhouette, and Optics. And we also have a $200 gift card for Action VFX as well. So definitely worth dropping your name in at borisfxlive.com. Full terms and conditions apply. And with that, back over to John. Actually, no, before that, Ben. If you're enjoying the stream, hit the thumbs up button. It costs you nothing, and it does help us out as well. So with that, over to John.
Thank you, Ben, very much. So we've looked at turbulence. Let's look at 3D. Obviously, 3D is the biggest wow factor feature in 2021. Particle illusion has been around for quite a long time, and it's always been 2D. And the introduction of 3D really just is a game changer as far as particle illusion goes. So before I actually look into 3D, let's just first of all come up to the File menu. I'm just going to choose Save Project. I'm just going to save this as base 02. All right, so 3D. Going to make sure I've got everything how I want it. That's good. I'll just twirl this back up for now. So you might have noticed at the top of the UI here, there's a button that says 2D. And if I click on that and roll over, there's a 3D option. So I'm just going to choose 3D. And nothing happened. Well, something did happen. You see over here in the controls, we now have a camera option and different camera models. And by default, it's set to none. We'll come back to these in a moment. The particles themselves didn't actually change. Let me twirl open the basic emitter, and this has also been added, emit in 3D. So it leaves it at 2D by default. It doesn't presume that you want it to be 3D. You can come down here and emit that in 3D by checking this checkbox. So I'm going to do that. And you see it did move just slightly. Now, a couple of other options have been added. Up here you can see there's a render view. Currently we're looking at the render view, but this drop-down menu gives us other options. So I can view this from the top. There's my particles, and you can see there's my camera at the top there. And you can see they are indeed emitting in 3D. And there's also, I like to use this one here, world view. So this one's kind of handy to get a good idea about what's going on in 3D in the scene. You can see the camera there as well. I'm going to bring that back to render view for now. So the way to really to move around these particles in 3D is to use the camera. So the camera model currently is set to none. You have three different options. You've got position, orbit, and pan. And some of these, they do have slightly similar settings, but they're designed like this depending on the task that you want to complete. So, for example, position gives us options for camera XYZ. So obviously moving the camera, you can see the camera focal point there, or field of view, is moving up and down, and the particles are moving up and down. You've got the X and the Z as well, of course, and as well as the Z, you've also got zoom, so you can zoom in on particles. And this is a good way, using zoom is actually a good way if your particles are too small in the scene, you can just make them 3D and just zoom in. Orientation is set to free rotation by default. There are other options, and if you have any familiarity at all with the After Effects camera, then you'll understand what these do. I'll just give you a quick overview. If we go to World View, I'm just going to roll my mouse out, just like that. So currently we're set to free rotation. So if just watch what happens to the camera wireframe there. So if I just, for example, drag the X, see how the camera is actually rotating. So it's pivoting from the actual camera. So the field of view is rotating. So I'm going left and right like that. And the same will obviously happen with the Y up and down. But if I set orientation to target, and I do that, now the camera itself is rotating, but the point of interest is maintaining its position. So what? Let me just come back to render view. So what you choose here is depend on the kind of look that you want in your 3D scene, and just keep dragging that value, and you can see as I do that, once again the point of interest is maintained, but the camera's rotating. So you might want to do some kind of spin or something like that. I don't tend to use position a lot myself. I actually prefer to use the orbit setting. Let me just give this a sec to catch up. And this is one of the things that was I was saying with my OpenGL, with my card. I think it needs to be dialed a little bit. Let's have a quick drink.
We've got while we've got a little bit of a break here, I'm going to just go through a couple of the questions. I know we're going to get to some of these later, but I just want to tell people that we are going to get to things like someone's been asking about deflectors in a roundabout way of ways of sort of constraining or stopping the particles. So we are going to be looking at deflectors in just a wee bit, I hope.
Yes,
I've got some other questions. Great. I've got some questions about presets, which I'm going to save till the very end. But I've also got a question about the price of the standalone version of Particle Illusion, and maybe Alan can help me out with that.
The standalone Particle Illusion, I don't want to say this the wrong way, but it has no price. It's free. Just go to the product page for Particle Illusion and click the download button. That's it.
See, there we go. That's going to be nice and easy. Yeah, pop to borisfx.com. There's a big banner that says, Particle Illusion 2021. Click on that one, standalone, register, get download, no license or anything like that. Oh, sorry, no registration. There's a license.
What sort of softball was that? I mean,
well,
wow.
I'm vamping.
Wow.
I'm vamping.
Wow.
I'm vamping. Come on.
What a setup. What a setup.
The other thing we could talk about is we could talk about lava lamps, but I thought that telling people that they could get Particle Illusion for free in a weird roundabout way.
How about you just do something everybody today as a special prize, a special for everyone watching today. Everyone can get PI Standalone for free right now.
I would love to do that.
Go ahead.
The only problem with that, I think we did that joke the last time when 2020 came out, but I don't know. It is a classic.
I only remember one.
Is it really a joke though? That's the thing. Is it really a joke?
It's words put together. Yeah.
Guys,
I think that's
only have
as close as it gets.
I only have one stream back memory, so I don't know what you're talking about. So I can only remember one back. So this is number 11.
That seems fair enough.
I have no past.
It's very true.
Keep the questions coming. I hope we're answering everything.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's move on. So as I mentioned, I just did a quick restart there, just to clear my my memory. So I was mentioning that there's other options. Now, orbit is probably one of my favorites because this gives me the ability to orbit around the particles. You can see I've got different options here. I have distance zoom. Well, zoom is consistent. Tumble, speed, rotate. So if I spin, rotate. So if I actually spin around the particles, now I have this is actually good because when I restarted, I didn't make them 3D. That's how it would look if we hadn't actually checked emit in 3D. So let me just turn that on. And they just pop out like that. So now we actually are getting a 3D particle system, which is so good. It still makes me smile when I see this. I remember when Alan was developing this with the team, and we started to see examples of this coming out, and it's just like, so excited to see this. And also things like tumble. See, I can tumble around that. It's great. And obviously I can set keyframes as well. So if I just come back to the beginning and just come up to my keyframes, just choose linear and just come to the end. I'm just going to drag my time indicator there and just give it one rotation. I'll come back to the beginning again. I should be able to spin around this. Well, I've just done rotation. Sorry, I should have done spin. So let me just make that constant again. Bring that back to 0. It's all good. Come back to there. Set a keyframe for spin. Make that linear. I'll just set that to 0. And come to the end. Right to the end there. And I'll just set that to 1. Okay, so let's see if we get a spin around there now. There we go. So we're spinning around that particle simulation. So they are definitely 3D particles. The other option also is pan. Pan's pretty straightforward. Just use the advance option just to sort of pan the particle simulation left or right. And you've also got zoom and distance as well. So these have been broken out into camera models just depending on the kind of task that you have. There's also a depth of field option. Let me just come back to orbit. You can see it maintains my keyframes. And there is a depth of field option. Let me just turn that on. And obviously this just depends how big your particle emitter is and where it's positioned in Z-space. It's going to bring my focus length down a bit. You see when I do that, that really blurs out. So obviously depth of field is controlled with a combination of focus length and aperture, just like a real camera. I'm going to bring that focus length, let's bring that up a bit, maybe about 1,000. Then I can control that once again by adjusting the aperture. So opening the aperture will give me more depth of field, closing it will give me less. So you can create some really nice depth of field effects. You might not notice it now, but you can see the particles at the front are less blurred than the ones at the back. So be able to create some nice effects there. I like to use this also to give me sort of bokeh kind of looks as well. So that's something to keep in mind with depth of field. So we've made this simulation 3D. Remember we started with that basic emitter. Let me just turn this off. I'll just save the project. And let me just turn this particular one off just by coming up to basic emitter and choosing disable. And I mean, Particle Illusion has thousands of presets, and these were, the majority of these, except for the ones in 2021, were designed in 2D, but now we have 3D, so it actually pays just to go in and stick a preset in here and make it 3D and see what it does. Obviously, some of the ones that really benefit the most are, are explosions. So something like this Boom 3, for example, if I just double-click that, just to add this, and click play. So we've got a bit of an explosion there, and you can already see that it actually is rotating. It actually is spinning. If I come up to here, you can see, because I had 3D turned on, Emit in 3D was automatically added when I added a new preset, so that's a good feature, because it knows that you're in 3D, so it presumes that you want them to be 3D. So let me just turn that off and play that back. So this is what you would have got before. Let's come back to the beginning. Let's just let that play back. So that doesn't look particularly good, does it? I mean, an absolute limitation of 2D particles. Let's just make that 3D again. And come back to the beginning. And 3D particles. Ooh, rah, that's great, isn't it? So just tumble above the top of that. Just like that. Fantastic. So definitely go ahead and explore the different presets and see what you get in 3D. It's definitely worthwhile. All right, so let me just get rid of Boom. And I'll turn back on my basic. We're going to keep advancing with this one. So I'm going to enable this. Press play. Okay, so that's Turbulence and 3D. Let's have a look at lines. Now, lines is one of those simple little things that, remember Alan discussing it when we first decided to put it in, and it was like, what if we could just connect the particles with lines? And it was a much easier thing to implement than we first thought, right, Alan?
Yeah, definitely. It was one of those things that seemed like it might take a lot of work, and then it surprisingly took a lot less than we thought.
Which is great. So let's take a look, everyone. And it actually gives a lot of bang for buck, because creatively it's a really wonderful option. So I'm going to twirl up properties for the basic emitter. So these are once again the emitter properties. Come down to the particle, just roll my mouse down, and here once again under properties, there's a lines option just above turbulence field. So you have different options for lines. Some of them will look better than others depending on your particle simulation, depending on the shape of the particle emitter that you've chosen. Obviously I have area here. I might just come up to tumble and just zero that out, just like that. Okay. And come down again. Now, first option is connect to emitter. So that's going to connect all of the particles to the emitter point. So let's just turn that on. Boom. Okay, it's way too bright. I'm going to bring the opacity down. I like this to be really subtle. So already, just by turning on the lines, that's changed the look of that. And obviously this is still orbiting in 3D. So that's pretty special. I mean, you may or may not like this really bright hot spot at the middle, but that's more to do with the intensity. I do tend to prefer that because if I turn intense off, it does tend to go a little bit flat, but it depends on what you have. So that's connect to emitter. Connect particles. I'm going to skip birth position for a sec because I'm going to save that one. Connect particles will connect the individual particles to each other. So if I just choose that, and we've probably turned the opacity way too low. So this creates a bit of a sort of, it can be a bit messy depending on what you're doing. It gives it kind of more of a sort of, I don't know, math kind of look. Geometry. It's terrible at maths at school. And you can adjust it by changing the max line length. So if I decrease that, just depending on the positions of the particles in relation to one another, you'll have lines. If this is correct, Alan, if the particles are closer, if the number's lower, it only connects to particles that are closer. How does that actually work?
That is how that works, John. Yeah, the lower the number,
Right.
it'll connect just the close particles. Yeah.
Close particles. So doing something like that is quite nice because it gives you a few lines without overdoing it. But if you have max line length really high, then it does tend to give you a bit of a spider web of lines. But once again, it really depends on what you're doing. If you've only got a few particles, then it can be really quite impressive. There's an example in the 2021 presets where these particles are chained. I think that's using the same one, whereas chained dots. So you see how the particles are chained together? So it can be very, very useful depending on the kind of thing you have set up.
John,
So
you got to
that's
click on party
connect-
tunnel. Click on your party tunnel. That's one of the best emitters in that whole set.
My party tunnel.
Yeah,
I know, but that's not using. That's using
chaining
connect to
together. I
birth
see what you're
point,
saying.
Alan.
I see. Gotcha. I gotcha.
Thank you, Alan. This is why I present and you don't. That's like saying
it's my favorite
it's a
emitter,
surprise
John.
birthday,
I'm
don't
sorry.
you?
It was
Just
too
before you
excited.
walk in the door. I know.
Yeah.
You are Particle Illusion's daddy after all.
Nobody's listening. They're just mesmerized.
Okay, so look, connect particles, and as Alan just said, thanks, Alan, connect to birth position. So this connect to birth position works really well with turbulence. Let me just roll my mouse in and turn that on. So we get this kind of really beautiful, swirling, almost hair-like look. And you can see it is dropping. It is dropping a little bit of resolution. That's because of the setting that I set in the preferences. I'm going to turn that off in a sec. I might do that now. Let's just come up to Preferences and just click Use High Quality Playback. Apply. Now if I play back, we're still getting really good playback. I mean, it doesn't really change the speed. So let's go ahead now and let's increase the number of the particles. And they're going to start to blow out. And this is where you have to go in and obviously use your artistic flair just to get these looking how they the best they can possibly look. That's a little bit too bright. Probably what I want to do is come in and make adjustments to size turbulence. Just bring that down like that. So that's already helping, and also maybe adjust the opacity of the lines. And no other choice with setting up particle emitter simulations than moving up and down to make adjustments. You're constantly doing that. You could even actually bring the particle size right down. So look at that. So I could bring that right down and either have just some little dots or actually have no particles whatsoever. And now I've got like, almost looks like, 3D fur, which is really pretty. That's quite pretty. So you can see how lines can be used really quite creatively. And it all depends on the kind of particle simulation that you're doing, the kind of emitter that you're using. Obviously, once again, you can add lines to existing presets. So let me just once again hide this one, just by disabling it. And as Alan mentioned, there are plenty of 2021 presets that have lines in them already. So definitely check those out to see how they're used. You can see how this particular one here is emitting from its birth. The lines are attached to the birth position, but the birth position is on a circle emitter. So you can get a completely different look. Let's go into explosions. That's fine. I'll just double click this one. And once again, this should be orbiting around by the camera. Yep, it is. So maybe just increase the life of the particles. So we get a little bit more of a bit more hang time. You see how that's rotating? Very nice. I know particles wouldn't do that, but imagine if you were, you were shooting it from a drone, And let's just
I'm just going to say, just going to jump in, John, if that's all right, for 2 seconds. Yep. Just to say that if people have just downloaded the Particle Illusion Standalone, you will probably want to download the Particle Illusion emitters as well, so you have that full list of emitters that John has. Yep. Yeah, because it comes bundled with a sampler of a few dozen emitters. But with the actual emitter download, there's thousands that come with that. So that's my little tip of the day.
Good point. Excellent point. Thanks, Ben. Let's turn on lines. So once again, come under Properties. This is for the particle. It's for open lines. And let's try the different ones. So connect to emitter. That gives you some white lines, which look pretty bad. I'm actually here. This is something a little bit I should point out. This is actually a super emitter. So here we have emitters, sub-emitters nested inside emitters, and the particles are nested inside the other sub-emitters or free emitters. So I'm not going to actually play around with the free emitter ones. I'm going to come down to, let's see, the particle, and come down to lines. And here we have the main one. So we've got domain emitter. Just going to bring that opacity down. And I'm just playing around with this. I've just grabbed a random preset. And this is what I hope you would do as well. Just come in and just play around with this and see what you can come up with. So that looks really interesting. The way that shoots out and gives you the lines in there. I'm going to turn that off. Connect to emitter. And that's connecting to the sub-emitter just here. So you're getting these lines. These are the lines connecting to the particles from the sub-emitter or free emitter. So that also gives you quite an interesting look. And obviously you can have all of these turned on at the same time. That's actually an even nicer look. Boom, like that. It almost gives you kind of a motion trail to these. And let's also connect to birth position. What does that do? Can't quite see as much of that. And connect particles. And connect particles, and I probably have to bring the opacity up like that. That's interesting. It almost looks like it's given it a wireframe. Look at that. So really, really useful creative options without really doing very much at all. Just check the option that you like and adjust the opacity. You can also change the line color and thickness. I tend to like very fine lines. Super easy to use and very creative. So let's just jump onto the last feature now, which is the new deflector options. So I'm just going to come up to here, just twirl these all up. I'm going to delete this one. And let's see. I'll delete my basic. I'm going to search for an emitter. Let's see. This one here. This is some I made for the Into the Continuum tutorial series, which is available on the Boris FX website. Also on the YouTube channel. Just some sparks that I made. I'm just going to double click these. So just a bit of a sparkler there, shooting out some sparks. Now I want to add a deflector to this so they bounce off the floor. So if I come up to the top here of the UI and click on Deflector, you can see that's added onto the stage. And you can see as I drag it around, it's already affecting those particles. They just slide down. Now I think it's rotating because I've still got this set to orbit. So I'm going to just turn off this spin. Just drag this down. And let these hit the floor. Just like that. Just going to give myself a little bit of space here. If I can pull that up. Okay, so they're bouncing off. That's all good. What we've done in 2021 is add a couple of new features because deflection was pretty basic, but it's more advanced now. The first thing was actually adding randomness. Now, I just want to adjust the velocity first because it'll make this more obvious what this is doing. So let me just bring the velocity way down, just like that. I just get a little stream of particles. So you can see if I just grab that and bring it up, they'll hit the floor, hit the deflector, and just slide down like that. They've got a little bit of bounce, so let's bring the bounce up as well. And that has to be for the sparks themselves. So it's only on one, so I'm going to bring it up and see, there you go. It's sort of bouncing up. So this is how it looked prior to 2021, and it just doesn't look very real. So what we did was we added a new randomness feature, and all you have to do is just drag that value up a little bit. I'm going to bring that up, and that starts to spread those out and make them bounce more randomly like that, which is already heaps better. Bring that up. And obviously I could turn on motion blur. And we're definitely getting a more realistic bounce. I'm going to turn off motion blur for a moment. And the other option is to break the particles once they hit. And it's right down the bottom here. I'm going to see if I can get myself some space so you can see that. There we go. So break particles. If I check that, when the particles hit, they'll break into smaller particles. And you do have a minimum and maximum pieces option. So depending on how many pieces that you want them to break into. So when they hit, they'll break into smaller pieces. So this is going to make your simulations a lot more realistic. And you can have multiple deflectors as well. So pretty simple, randomness and breaking particles. So those are the key new features in Particle Illusion 2021. We have the Turbulence, 3D, lines, and the new Deflector features. There are other smaller interface enhancements that are making things easier, which you can explore as you start using this new version. So I definitely recommend downloading the free version if you haven't and giving it a play. And when you get really used to it and you want to move further and you want to have more features, things like motion tracking and being able to add a background, then I would definitely suggest looking at the Continuum version of Particle Illusion. So I'm going to hand back to the team.
That's great. Thanks, John. That's really good. We are going to be coming back to your interface. So have your finger over the screen share button again at some point soon. But I think that was awesome. I think we've had a huge amount of feedback from the chat as well, which has been wonderful. I've got my big list of questions that we will be going through soon. But before we do any of that, I think it is now time. I'm just checking the clock. Yes, it is now time to announce some winners on our competition. So I think we're going to do the first competition winner as soon as Brian brings up the first name. Julie Resch has won the $200 gift card to Action VFX. Congratulations, Julie. Maybe
Julie.
Yuli. I'm terrible at pronouncing names, so if your name is not pronounced Julie, then apologies. And our other prize, which is the Boris FX Suite.
Ben, I apologize in advance.
Oh no!
For this pronunciation.
No. This is good. This is easy. This is easy. This is a Hungarian name, which I am assuming is Zsolt Novak. Zsolt, if you are here in the chat, please let me know how I did with your name. And I really, really hope I didn't butcher it too badly. If I did, it doesn't really matter because you still win a 1-year subscription to the Boris FX Suite. Again, that is everything that we make, including Continuum, where you can find the plugin version of Particle Illusion, and Sapphire, Mocha Pro, Silhouette, and Optics as well. So congratulations to both of our winners. But in a very real sense, everyone on this stream is a winner. And why is that, Brian? Come on, this is queuing up your feeble joke again for the third time.
Everybody gets PI for free. You get PI for free. You get PI for free, right? Everybody gets it for free. Particle Illusion Standalone is a free download. Right now, you can try Boris FX Particle Illusion Standalone for free. All jokes aside, really cool. Super psyched. It's
very,
free.
very cool.
And it's rare we get to do a live stream where everybody watching 100% should have the software, right? So, like, if you haven't downloaded it, that's on you, all right? Because it is free.
I should mention too, just a quick mention there. If you are creating projects in Particle Illusion Standalone, obviously they will open in the Continuum version of Particle Illusion 2. So anything you create in the Standalone will open in the Continuum version.
And you can also make your own presets, and all of those will carry over as well between the versions.
Yes, excellent.
Yep. I think, is there any other business that we have to get to, Brian? Have I remembered all the business before I get to my questions?
We can talk about just, a little tease maybe to what's coming up next in our next stream, which is in 2 weeks. And I apologize that I don't have a good graphic. Just everyone ignore the thank you for watching. But coming up in 2 weeks, we have a very special presentation with our own Marco and Peter from the Silhouette team are going to break down kind of their career path in the VFX industry. Both these gentlemen have worked on some major feature film shots that some real iconic work. And also kind of like really interesting, they're going to talk about kind of frustration with software, existing software that was out there at a point in time, and why they chose to create silhouette rotoscoping, which is definitely an interesting story. 100% tune in. Anyone who has chatted with Marco and Peter know this is going to be a laugh a minute. This is going to be a fun one. So that is in 2 weeks, March 3rd, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And that's going to be our regular time when we don't have to accommodate Australians getting up in the morning. So if John's with us, we'll try and do this 5 o'clock time. But normally we'll be 2 o'clock. So we'll try and get both coasts of the U.S. and Europe as Brian. Well before they go to dinner, before they go to bed. You are worth
before
it.
They go to bed.
Before they go to bed. Yeah. All right, that's it. Let's questions. Let's get to questions.
I've got questions. I've got quite a lot of questions about emitters. I think the first one's like fairly easy one. Are there any places that people can go to get, user-generated emitters? Is there like a one big library of emitters that people have created and deposited on the World Wide Web? And I think it's probably a question for Alan. Like a sharing resource, yeah.
Yeah, I don't Not that I know of. We did way back, if you're a longtime particle illusion fan, way back in the day, we used to do emitters, like user emitters, like a contest for every month. And so for a while we collected user emitters, but those got eventually rolled into the emitter libraries. And so the best ones of those are already in your collection. But as far as new things that people have made, there's no resource yet for sharing those. Hopefully that'll change soon, though. I mean, the more interest there is, the more chance of it happening, right?
Yeah, that's it. And I think this is probably the perfect time for one of the viewers to go and register particleillusionemitters.com and actually start that resource themselves. I think that's probably a very good idea.
Diabolical.
It's it's terrible. I mean, that's the other thing is we do create quite a lot of emitters that in-house that get rolled into the next versions, but there's usually a bit of a wait between those. So we do have public forums as well. So if you've created something that you feel is share worthy, feel free to then go post it on the Particle Illusion forums. That's forum.borisfx.com. There's a ton of good community there, and I think it's nice to have like a proper old school forum where people know each other, and there's like quite a nice little community. But enough about my pitching of there. Let's go into the next question. This one's for John. And
okay, ready.
This is about go-to presets. Do you have any like starting presets that you or like presets that you will use as a starting off point for doing different things, like doing like a motion graphic something background? Is there something you'll jump into straight away?
It's an excellent question. If you caught the beginning of the stream, you might have heard me mention that the presets are great, and I do use them. I generally tend to, if I'm building something very specific, start with the basic ones. So the custom, I'm just typing this in, the custom emitters. Let's see if I can find them. Hang on, I've got to type in basic, sorry. Basic, there we go. So these basic ones, so there's a basic emitter which we use to start this look that we have up here on the screen. Just see if I can get that on the screen. There we go, just going to roll in there. So we use this basic one here to create this look, which is you wouldn't think we would be able to do that, but the reason it was fairly easy was because there wasn't a lot of keyframes already in there. It was all pretty much default settings. So and if you wanted to start with a basic super emitter to do an explosion, then you might use that one, or just a simple burst. This one's really good for sparks, any kind of explosion, any kind of smoke, rising. Change the that to basic falling. So you've got, once again, sparks, welding sparks, rain, snow. So you could just go and grab one of the snow emitters and just use that as a starting point, but no, I think if there was any that I would say I use a lot, it would be these most basic ones, which really are super vanilla. And I think also presets are great. You don't necessarily want to just jump on a preset and stick it in the background, because everyone else can do that too. For many years, I've said that you need to get a preset and then make it your own. And like I said, starting from more basic ones is better for me, because it gives me more flexibility and means I don't have to sort of hunt through all of these controls to find out what things are doing and why they're doing them. And much easier to me to control from a simple starting point.
Now I'm a lot lazier than John, and I will often start with a preset. And I think one of the things that I like about Particle Illusion is that you can take a preset, change the sprite, change the particle sprite, and maybe adjust like a couple of other parameters, give it a different color change, and all of a sudden you've got something that looks a bit more your own. And even if you are using some of the custom sprites that are inside the library already, there are hundreds of sprites already in there, so you can actually just go in and change stuff up without having any assets of your own, and you're still kind of doing that thing of taking a preset and making enough changes that it's actually becomes your own. And I think that's nice and useful.
I agree with that as well. It depends on how much time you have. Obviously, if you're doing this for work as well, you want to have something from the very start that gets you as close as possible to your final look as you can. And that might not always be starting from the super base. But if you find something in the presets that is really close, let me just double click this one, see if I can get this one to load. So, as Ben mentioned, there's lots of particles there. Let me just bring the number down.
Particles.
Bring the number down. I'm not sure what this is doing. Okay, so come down into just to help this other one up, which I've turned off. Come up to the properties for the particle. As Ben mentioned, click on the shape library and choose a different shape. Some are going to look better than others, but you can literally just go through here and change that up. Choose a fish if you want. And come up with something that has all of the movement that you want, pretty much. Just adjust the life, just the velocity maybe, the number of particles and the image, and then you're ready to go. And that's a new preset.
That's great.
So it looks totally different, doesn't it? But as far as having any single 5 top presets that I always use as a starting point, no, not necessarily.
No, you go to the custom as your starting point. I think I do the same. I'm a big sucker for the explosions and the fire stuff. I love that, and I think those are some of the most fun ones to be playing with as well. I think I always like to sneak a little bit of fire into the background somewhere.
I agree, and doing an explosion
How about Alan?
is tricky. Okay, I'll just quickly add to that. Doing an explosion is tricky, and a really good explosion, especially a super emitter explosion, which has emitters inside emitters. Yeah. And to start from the basics, I found it very difficult. I'm not good at that at all. It takes a lot of practice. So using one that's already got everything in there, just fine-tuning it, why would you start from the base? You just wouldn't. You'd use one that's already in there. Sorry, Alan, what do you think?
I agree with everything you've said so far. I would also say that as far as favorites of mine, I'm going to sneak in a little tip here. Using the search that John's been using, if anybody remembers the pro emitters that we had back in the old particle illusion days, the pro emitters were the most advanced emitters that we had. To find the pro emitters, there's a trick. You can type 2 colons, because all of the pro emitters have 2 colons in their name. And no, not I guess John doesn't. I don't understand why it's not showing, but they're got to be in there.
Alan, I love that trick.
If it worked, it would be great. It works great, and what about PE? Look for PE. Just PE space.
Yeah, there you go. Oh no, I wasn't typing colons. I was typing dashes.
Okay.
There's semicolons. Let's see if I actually know how to do a colon. There we go. There we are.
It's the shift key, just on the left hand of the keyboard.
I got it. It's different in Australia.
Yep.
Okay, so there's your PE one. So you've got really complex ones, right, Alan?
Those are some of the old school but very complex ones. So those are good starting points. If you just want to know where to start browsing, if you haven't looked at these yet, those are some of my favorites.
So these used to sell for big dollars. How much do they cost now?
These are completely free, but useless unless you have also particle illusion installed.
I love Alan's setup. I love Alan's setup. It's the pregnant pause, and then he just crushes it. Right? Just these are.
And have a
he
look.
knocks it out
Have a look
every
at the
single
particles.
time.
These are free. These are free.
You can see Alan said it is complex. It's got 1, 2. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 particles in there. Different particles.
Yeah, there's a lot. Some of these, there's a
10.
lot going on. I think the highest.
It's very difficult to create it from scratch.
Yeah,
it can be very difficult to create this from scratch, but I don't believe that particle illusion is really designed for you to. I mean, you could, but to build these from scratch is not necessary. Use the ones that are in there and modify them. Yep.
I just want to
John,
thank Alan for. Sorry, I was going to say I just want to thank Alan for the slew of double colon jokes that are now appearing in chat. You have brought this on all of us. I wish you hadn't.
Yeah. That was a decision made 15 years ago, so I played a long game.
I gotta jump in, by the way. Sorry, everyone. Totally wrong on the last webinar. The next webinar is actually new features in Continuum 2021 for FCP, which this
cool.
wonderful graphic you may have watched me just create. Definitely not my finest work. Apologize, there's probably spelling errors all in that. So this is Wednesday, February 17th, 2 weeks from today. Blood, Sweat, and Fears, the VFX with Marco and Peter, is actually in 4 weeks. So we call that a long lead tease in the business, and we also call that a horrible mistake on my part. And we also say that now I have no animation to close out to as well. So you may be seeing this graphic again. So this is coming up in 2 weeks.
Let's recycle the animation, shall we?
Yes. So Continuum 2021 is going to come out for FCP, and we're going to go over all the new features, 80 new filters, a whole bunch, effect editor, all the good stuff in Continuum 2021 for FCP. Sadly, no particle illusion in Continuum 2021 for FCP. But anyway, back to your questions.
Cool. I've got a couple of big ones.
I have one, a simple one. I have a small one.
Oh, go on then, Alan. Go on.
I saw it very early in the chat, very early, and no one picked up on it. John has been showing an area emitter, but somebody was asking about, if I understood correctly, just positioning an emitter on the screen. Like, how could you animate the position of a sparkle trail or something?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, there's an area emitter here. No, but I can change that at any time. I could just come up to Properties and change the shape from area, for example, to line. And if I just click and then hit escape, that creates a line. So it has all of the same settings, but now I have a line emitter. So that's actually quite a good thing to do when you are setting things up. If you're just trying to look for creative looks, you set it up with one emitter shape and then try a different shape. You've also got things like circle. That's probably a little bit too big. I'm just going to bring that down. So you can see that changes that look again quite dramatically. Yeah. Gives you that kind of look, which is really lovely. So, and animating the emitter is just is super straightforward. I'm just going to turn that one off, disable that, and let's take a look in the presets at emitters 2020.5. I think the ones I want, and I want to choose. Where is it? Arcade Missile Trail. I can always test that here. There we go. That's a good one. Just turn that off before I go blind. Double click. So there it is. There it is sitting in there, which is actually not a bad look. But if I just bring that across to the left of the frame there and come up to my position and choose a keyframe for linear, and then I'll just go to the end of my project and just drag that out. There's my motion trail or my motion path. So it's that easy. This is the slowest one ever. Oh, actually, I've set the keyframe. Yeah, that's right. No, I've set the keyframe in the wrong place. I need to put that right at the beginning. So it is a pretty slow one. It's like, yay, super intense. But I can always obviously drag those keyframes. I know. I can manipulate the keyframes. I can drag them closer. I can change them from linear to Bezier. So you've got full control over the particle position. And also, this is a good example of something that probably could benefit from turbulence. So with that, come down to my pixels. Yeah, sorry about that pop there on my microphone. And just come down and change the, where am I? Position turbulence and size, so position turbulence. There you go. So if I just drag that, so now I'm getting some turbulence in that as well. Like that. So that's the answer to that question about animating emitters.
Cool. I've got one last little one. I know that the time is getting on, and John said that we wouldn't have a lot to cover in this one, and I said no, we're going to have tons because there's going to be loads of really good questions. And once again, I was right. So in your face, John. In the kindest way possible.
And once again, Ben embarrassing me.
That's it. The thing is, I think because you've created so much good stuff today that people are thinking that you're superhuman, and we can't have them going away with thinking, oh yeah, no, John, because he comes from Australia, he's a superhuman, like just some kind of cartoon character. We've got to bring that humanity back in, and I think we've done that here. It's all about humanity at Boris FX.
Apparently, yes.
I've now forgotten my last question. No, hang on. Here we go. I've got it again. In the plugin version, obviously, you've got a lot more stuff that you can do with particle illusion. You can apply it to a clip itself, and then start to, work with a clip in the background. With the standalone version, you can't do the same sort of thing because you're not applying it to a particular clip. But there is a way of, having a background added to it. Can you just take us through that quickly?
I would love to, Ben, but I don't know how to.
You know the trick. Oh, and Alan, tell John the trick.
There was a trick, right? Yeah.
There's a trick. There's actually a preset. It's a preset. Go and do it.
Ben, I don't remember the preset. It's...
Yes, you do.
Ben, I don't remember the preset. Basically the trick is you add solid color. Solid color. It's called solid color. Obviously, everybody knows that. And you add that, and it's just a single huge particle. And then you can change the sprite for that particle and load an image or an image sequence for that particle, and then it will be there for reference for you. You have to resize it a little bit to make it fit right, but it's the workaround trick that we use to get sort of any background images or footage into the particle illusion standalone.
And remember, if you want to then
but the best
just
possible
take
way
out
is
the particles
to
at the
use
end.
continuum.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ben, you go. What was that?
That's it. No, I was going to say, like, if you want to have flexibility when you export, because obviously with the standalone version you actually have to export your clip out again, your rendered particles.
Exactly.
Just remember to turn off the background clip if you don't want that included in your render.
Yep.
But that's it. That was it.
Just to answer Mike's question, yes, you can render with an alpha channel.
Yes, you can.
Yes, Arto, thanks for all your Arto5 answering a lot of questions in chat. So yep, you can render with a pre-multiplied or a straight alpha.
Yep, there's the render settings just there. So you've got all the possible render settings you might need. ProRes is the codec of choice.
Yep, 100% ProRes 444 if you want to get the alpha. ProRes 422 if you just want to get some video to composite. I mean, I definitely agree with John. While the trick is great, I'm way too lazy for that. I'm way too lazy. I'd much rather just apply it in continuum. A lot easier.
And obviously applying it in continuum gives you things like motion tracking and
Sure.
masking and all that other fun stuff. So it gives
Integrated
you a lot more,
glow.
Yeah.
integrated glow. You know, it gives there's a ton of stuff. But Particle Illusion Standalone is there for everyone who wants it, and Continuum is there for everyone who wants to pay the small fee to purchase it, or win it in another prize giveaway at borisfxlive.com. Yeah,
That's right.
If no one's got anything else to say, if there's nothing hanging, I've got a couple of short little things, and I think we should say goodbye. But I'll go round. Any last thoughts, Alan?
It really, I mean, if you, no, I was gonna say, if you've never used particle effects before, Particle Illusion is a great way to kind of jump in because of the preset library. As you saw with John, it's very easy to just add an effect and experiment around. You don't even have to change parameters if you don't want to. You know, just there's so many explosions in there that you can just use. I know people love to add explosions. It's just fun. That was the idea behind Particle Illusion all the years ago, is to make a particle system that anybody could use, and it was fun to use, and that's what we tried to do. And if you make money doing it, that's even better.
Yeah, I used Particle Illusion on the very first TV commercial I ever made, and I was so thrilled to meet Alan in real life, and now here we are talking together almost daily. It's a gorgeous thing. I never thought I'd be here. It's great.
Dreams do come true, Ben.
John,
Dreams do come true.
John, dreams do come true. I'm just saying that for everyone out there at the moment, especially people who have hit the thumbs up like button on the YouTube stream, you too may be able to meet Alan Lawrence in real life at one point. That is definitely the dream. Hit the like button, please. Does that? I don't know if it sounds needy when I whine about people hitting the button. I don't know.
No, I
my shame level about live streams has gone down very, very, very low since there. Sorry, Brian, you were saying.
No, I agree with you. There may have been a 25-year-old Avid editor version of myself that was frantically rendering snow particles out for compositing, and no alpha channel at all, just putting them over black and then doing a watch out for the snow coming up at 11 pieces. So thank you, Alan. Definitely saved me. And I will say that it was the talk. Look what's this guy doing over there? This guy's making snow particles. You know, this was long ago. So very, very cool, and great job, John, as always. Love your style.
John, fantastic.
Love your your professorial classes in PI. So
it's fun. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, I love doing it. I was just going to say, Brian, Ben, you also asked me as well. Definitely check out the Particle Illusion webpage. You can learn more about it. There's examples on here, and most importantly, down the bottom is a link to the tutorial series that Ben and I created for the previous version. So obviously these don't have the 2021 features in them yet, but we will be adding those. And but they do have a lot of stuff that is still highly relevant. We didn't about forces today, and adding forces with 3D particles as well can change the look again completely, especially when you turn on lines. So if you want to learn how to use Particle Illusion, this is definitely your starting point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was a lot of thought that went into designing it as well, so that you can get up and running really quickly if you just want to watch the first couple. But as you start to play with Particle Illusion, you start to get to know it a bit more. Obviously, you want to know more of the features, and that's where you can start to build in some more of the skills in the later tutorials. But each of the lessons is about 10 minutes long. It's really not onerous to watch them. I think it's very useful.
Yep. Fantastic.
Cool. Well, with that, I am going to say goodbye to everyone. I want to say thank you very much to everyone who was able to join us here. I want to say thank you to Alan. I want to say thank you to John. I want to say thank you to Brian in Mission Control. But most of all, I want to say thank you to everyone who has hung around for the full hour and a half. We do try to keep these a tight 60 minutes, and we fail every single time. So seriously, thank you very much for joining us for Boris FX Live, and we will see you again soon. But also check out the forums, forum.borisfx.com.
I mean, I do a little slow on the forums, but yeah, good point. Everyone check out the forums.
It's an amazing resource. For any problems, or also feature requests, of course. You know, as particle illusion is in constant development, so get your feature requests in. You know, we do have developers reading the forums as well, so you know your comments are being listened to. And with that, I am going to say a final goodbye from me, Ben Brownlee, for Boris FX, for this Boris FX Live.
It's all falling apart.
See you again. It's gone. I'll see you again in the next couple of in the next 2 weeks, where we're going to be looking at FCP and Continuum. So now is the time for the graphic, Brian. Thanks a lot, everyone, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.